Well, good evening. Um, I was just having a thought about something, and I kind of wanted to share it. And it's well, it's a situation that I've run into a few times over the years, where things were attributed to me by people who had guilty consciences. A person was doing something they shouldn't be doing, and because I happened to be around, they thought that I knew more than I did. And then there were times I was attacked. There's times I've even been physically attacked by people. Um, I used to have a little business collecting scrap metal. I was always honest. I wasn't one of these scrappers that was going into places and stealing copper out of work sites and whatnot. I had people saving materials for me, and I also would walk the ditches picking cans and bottles and things. I'd take the alcohol containers in for the refund money, and the aluminum cans, the pop cans and whatnot, I'd crush them down and I would sell them for scrap. And back in the 90s and the early 2000s, scrap metal prices were high. You could make good money doing that. When the fair was in my hometown one year, I went around there after the first night, after the demolition derby and all that had finished during the first night of the fair, which would go on for like 4 days. Um, and from the fairgrounds and from the side streets around the fairgrounds and everything, I collected nearly $500 worth of beer bottles and beer cans just from around that area. And they're worth 10 cents a piece, so it gives you an idea. I had a lot of money. I worked for about 4 hours and I made nearly $500, and this was back in the late 1990s. So just to give you an idea, but it was all legitimate. There was no theft or anything. But one of the things that I had a deal with the manager of an apartment complex, and I kept his garbage area clean for him and so on, and in exchange I could take any of the recyclables or anything like that I wanted. And anyway, I got into some bother with some guys that were living in the apartment complex. They didn't like me going into the recycling bins, and the reason for that was they were involved in the drug business, and they were using the site recycling bins as a drop-off point. That's what it was, and they thought that I knew what they were doing. And so they were very suspicious of me, and I had some problems with those guys. And it even got a little scary at times. And I mean, I was there totally innocently. I was just there getting the cans and so on, which I was entitled to do, which I had permission from the management to do. And cleaning up the garbage area, making sure everything was tidy and organized and there wasn't stuff just strewn all over the place or whatever. But yeah, I ended up having some problems because of that. There was another time I was parking my car near to a place where a prostitute lived, and I didn't know there was a prostitute there, but there was. And it was where the parking space I paid for the town to park. I paid the town for that space in a municipal parking lot, and they told me that's where you park. And anyway, it turns out she was servicing some of the local police, and they were lending her an unmarked car, and she didn't have a driver's license. I found a lot of things out after the harassment started, because the police really started going after me. And that was why, because some of them were visiting this woman. And she actually came out of her house and threatened me one day when I was clearing the ice and snow off my windshield after a big storm. And so, again, these are people with guilty consciences. And I guess what I want to say is, for any of you out there, if you've ever just been attacked for seemingly no reason, just because you showed up somewhere or just because you were near to a place or around a place, chances are the people attacking you had something to hide. Guilty conscience will make you paranoid. People who are doing wrong things, they think that other people know far more than they do. It just goes with the territory if you're doing bad things, you know. So yeah, I mean, I've experienced that, and I'm sure there are people listening that will resonate with that have also experienced it. And yeah, if you're just suddenly attacked for no apparent reason, and you think you're just innocently going about your business, and somebody gets up in your face, or you start to be harassed or whatever, chances are you've accidentally stumbled onto something and you don't even know it, you know? And I mean, at first, in both those instances, I didn't know what I'd stumbled upon. And if they hadn't have done that, I never would have known, you know? But anyway, this is the thing. But of course, when people are doing wrong, they get paranoid. They think you know more than you know. They think you're a threat to them. They think you're a threat to whatever they're doing. And so they attack. And, you know, I've had this happen in the past anyway. And I'm sure that there are others listening right now that can relate to